In the second episode, we will look at the main forces involved in physical simulation on the propulsion side. We have the main thrust from the tail motor and main rotor to control the direction. An additional force dependent on speed and motor thrust is implemented directly on the rudder. The lift force of the air cushion was already discussed in the first episode. This was expanded by the possibility of increasing this lift force. Air resistance is integrated as one of the counterforces. Furthermore, the braking effect of the main rotor when the engine power is reduced is taken into account. In addition, a type of wing force is implemented, which increases in strength depending on speed and angle and can also cause the hovercraft to take off. The main thrust, represented here by the forward-facing purple arrow, does not immediately reach 100%, but increases to a maximum value based on a power curve. In addition, a second calculation curve has been implemented to simulate propeller efficiency. The additional drag that occurs when the rudder is activated is implemented by reducing the total thrust. When no throttle is applied, the thrust is reduced, and then a speed-dependent braking effect is applied by the propeller and engine. This is represented by the blue arrow. The rudder has three primary operating states. When the engine is idling without power, the rudder has minimal force, shown as a pink arrow, and assists in turning the hovercraft while stationary. When engine thrust is activated, the force has a percentage strength of the engine power. During movement and when no throttle is applied, the strength of the rudder effect is calculated based on the speed and resistance. All these forces are reduced or increased by the rudder position. Air resistance, represented by the blue arrows, is calculated separately at several points, similar to the mass body. In addition to speed and air pressure, the air resistance value is the decisive factor. This is calculated using different values depending on the angle of the longitudinal axis to the direction of travel and acts as a counterforce on the various components. This assists braking when cornering, and the high lateral air resistance of the tail rotor assembly allows the hovercraft to align itself to a certain extent. The pilot's movements change the strength and point of attack of the air resistance, which also allows the air braking effect to be controlled to a lesser extent. Foil force. This is a situation-dependent force that can have a massive impact. Depending on the speed, drift angle, weight shift of the pilot, and roll angle of the hovercraft, massive lift is generated comparable to an aircraft wing. This slows the hovercraft down just as dramatically. If you don't react quickly to this behavior, there is a possibility that the hovercraft will flip over. Lift force overdrive. The deliberate amplification of the lifting force has been integrated as a further control option. This could serve to prepare the air cushion for terrain conditions. It also improves agility in transverse positions. However, a negative influence is the increased tendency to tip over and the increase in air resistance. This means that all forces relevant to the game should be included. The individual forces and masses still need to be balanced for this hovercraft type as a basic setup. The plan is to allow players to swap out individual components within a hovercraft type and have their different properties such as power, weight, and aerodynamics influence the handling.